not uncomfortable, you should be. Okay? In the autumn of 1971, I was in my first semester, first year in seminary, studying in Rome. Lectures were in Italian. My biblical Greek was a first seminary level of Greek. And I will never forget Father Roscoe, who a professor I utterly despise for many reasons, which is another sermon. But I will never forget him saying over and over again, after the study and the exegesis of the text and looking at how rabbis taught and the way they caught people's attention with extreme language and what Jesus was doing and how he was able to do this. And he kept saying to us, remember, 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 the Sermon on the Mount is not an ideal that Christians aspire to. It is the base from which we start. I've never understood that, and the older I get, the more that strikes me. We hear these incredible challenges that Jesus gives to us. And what was 71? Do the math. It was 43 years ago, okay, when I was in school. I've read a lot of articles, I've read a lot of books about Matthew's Gospel and trying to teach myself, and I've seen these two schools of thought go back and forth. Was Jesus giving us an ideal, or was Jesus giving us the teaching that we begin from? If it makes you uncomfortable, it should. Because the Sermon on the Mount isn't only just the Beatitudes, which tells us how wonderful and happy we're always going to be. It's the challenge. It's being what God plans so that God can make us grow, to use Paul's second reading. Okay? He teaches that in most matters, it's not enough just to simply say, I don't commit murder or adultery or lie or whatever the case may be. That's a good start, but it's also a matter of to use the poetry of the language, where the heart is. And remember, in ancient Semitic language, the heart was not the center of emotion. We think of it, or Valentine's Day, right? Believe it or not, when they talked about the center of emotion in the language and literature of the time, you know the body organ they used to refer to? This is going to gross you out. It wasn't the heart. When they talked about love and emotion, you know what they referenced? Anyone want to guess? Close by, kidneys. The emotions lived in your kidneys. Now I can tell you as a person who's passed kidney stones, there are certain emotions that come from the kidneys. Okay. Most of the pain. But when they talk about the heart in ancient language, in that culture, the heart was the center of who you were making choices. So religion of the heart had not so much to do with emotion. It had to do with how you respond to the Word, how you're open to God's grace, and how you choose to do X, Y, Z. Your choice, your capacity to be a human lives in the heart. My heart has to be right, not just my actions. But it can't be just my heart, it has to be my actions as well. It's both. God's revelation to the people of the covenant. God looks at obedience that goes all the way through. Integrity between the heart and what I do, between what I feel and how I act. The culture we live in says, do whatever you need to do or want to do, as long as you don't hurt anyone, as long as you don't, it feels okay to yourself, and as long as you intend to do the right thing, it doesn't matter. You know, how many times I hear, but his intention was right. He meant well. She meant well. Have you heard that? Okay? That makes me crazy. I'll be honest with you. All right? Because while that is part of it, intentions do count. All right? But no one says to a murderer, well, you know, he meant well. Okay? Or Captain Smith of the Titanic, you know, breaking the transatlantic record was a good thing. He really intended something good when he ran into the iceberg. Or Hitler was sincere. Bin Laden was sincere. We don't say apply that standard all the time, and we never apply it to ourselves. If you hurt me, I don't care what your intentions were. I just know what you did. And isn't that true? Isn't that what we all do in our dealings with others? Be fair. Be truthful. And the Lord teaches us it's a matter of both. To be disciples, we do keep his moral law. Not because God's watching us, not because we're afraid to do otherwise, but because we want to. We love to. And there's where love comes in. Love is what makes what God grows in us take fruit. Love doesn't always make it easy. When I always make it easy to be the person you're with. Have I said anything revolutionary or shocking to you? Anybody. I don't care how long you've been married or not. It doesn't mean you stop loving the person. Love is commitment. But love isn't always easy. And sometimes love is just quite not natural. Because to be a follower of Christ, to do what is not easy, to do what is not natural, it's not natural to ignore the pressures of coworkers or friends when they want to go one way, or in my life, ignore the pressures from other clergy, take the easy road. It's not natural to hear Christ's word and try to live it and obey him first, and yet in our baptismal vows, that's what we say we're going to do. The priority is him. It's not natural to ignore going with the flow and rather going with grace and living into God's word and listening to the Spirit speaking within you. It's not natural to make the tough choices, to make reform and renewal a daily part of our life, because that comes from the heart, our emotions, the choices that we make being open to God's word. So I don't know about you, but I find the Sermon on the Mount really challenging. I found it challenging as a first-year seminarian taking my first biblical course, and it's been haunting me for the last 43 years. It's a challenge to choose Christ's way, to choose him first, to choose the way of spiritual maturity, to choose the way of revelation from within and redirection from within. But that's what it means to be church. We hear his voice. We know what he asks of us. And from within, because we're right with God, we want to do it. We love to do it. Welcome to the world of the Sermon on the Mount. It is a challenge, but it is possible. It is not only what we aspire to be, it's where we should be leading from. Amen. Gee, you glad I came to church today in bad weather?